What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Swampfox Optics YouTube channel, and today we are talking about pistol basics / pistol 101 / intro to pistol / couple of things to get you better at shooting pistols. The reality of the situation is we talk a lot of the time about how good red dots are and why they're better than iron sights, but if you can't shoot a pistol, if you can't pull the trigger and get the bullet to go where you want it to go, then you will get none of the advantages that a red dot will offer. It will not make you a better shooter. So today we're going to go through a couple of things that you may or may not have already heard, but just a few basics to get you off on the right foot so that you can actually start to gain and use the advantages that a red dot will provide. And before we go any further, I want to highlight the sponsor of today's video, which is nobody, because we don't have a channel sponsor. We just make optics, and that's what provides for us to be able to make videos. So if you are looking for an optic for any of the guns that you have in your safe that are naked and need some clothes, go ahead and go over to our website, swampfoxoptics.com. Check out our selection of optics that won't break the bank but still provide great value for what you need. So that being said, let's shoot some pistols. I'm going to break down shooting so simple it'll blow your mind. All you need to do to shoot a pistol well is be able to align your sights, put your sights on your target, and pull your trigger without screwing the first two things up. So if you can do that, if you can put your sights on target, keep them aligned, and pull the trigger without disturbing them, you will hit what you're shooting at. But as I'm sure you are aware, that is a lot easier said than done. So today we're going to go over a few things that contribute to that process, and we'll get you started working on doing that very thing. The three main components of shooting, I would say, is your grip, your sight picture, and your trigger press. So we're going to go over each one of those things. We're going to start with the grip. So the first thing we're going to go over is our grip, and the grip is arguably one of the most important things. Obviously everything's important, but this is where recoil control and just control of the firearm overall comes into play, and that is created by friction from our hands gripping the gun. What I want you to think about is, if you think about disc brakes on a vehicle, right? You've got this big plate, and if you don't know what disc brakes are, shame on you, go use the internet. Disc brakes have this big disc looking thing, kind of like a CD, and then it has these pads that hold on to either side of the disc brake, and they push towards each other, creating pressure and friction to slow your car down. And so when we shoot a gun, that's what we should be thinking about, is creating side-to-side pressure on both sides of the firearm with our hands to help control that flip of the gun, right? If you think about the gun wants to spin when you shoot it, and we apply pressure on both sides, kind of like disc brakes do, we can slow down the gun doing that and control our firearm properly. How do we do that? So what we're going to do is, with your right hand or your dominant hand, is you're going to use the webbing of your hand. You're going to put it up as high into what we call the beaver tail as possible. If you don't have a beaver tail, you just want to get it as high up on the backside of the grip as possible. And then we're going to take our three fingers here, and we're going to wrap them fully around the grip of the gun. And on the other side here, finger off the trigger because we're not ready to shoot. That's just going to live there for a little bit. And if you notice here, my thumb is sticking up high, leaving a lot of space open. And so what we've created now is this nice big opening, all the polymer available here, and that is where the counter side of my left hand is going to help apply some of that friction so that I can help keep the gun controlled. So once we have our grip as high up into the beaver tail as we can, and we have our thumb high up to create that space for our support hand, what I'm going to do is, off a Glock anyway, there's this kind of weird pad here, and what I like to do is take the big thick part of my palm and lay it there first, right? Now if you notice, both my thumbs are now pointing up, and then I want to lay the rest of my hand into this grip section here and get as much of my hand touching the grip as possible. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to take my other four fingers and I'm going to wrap them around my hand that is gripping the gun. So what I'm going to feel now when I am gripping the gun is I'm going to feel side-to-side pressure being created by my support hand onto my firing hand. And I would say, this is dependent on how you shoot, but probably 70% pressure in your support hand and then 30% in your firing hand. I don't want a super tight death grip in my firing hand because these three fingers will do what this finger's doing and vice versa. And so if I am just death gripping the crap out of my gun, then I'm also probably not going to have very good trigger control. We'll get to that here in a minute. So 30 to 40% pressure and grip in my firing hand, and then 60% pressure in my support hand, laying my hand into this opening created by my thumb and my firing hand, so I get a lot of friction on the gun. And then, all said and done, what my thumbs do are basically just hang out. I don't really use the downward pressure methodology, right? Because the friction created by my hands gripping the gun will control the gun. I don't need to apply downward pressure. So my thumb just kind of hangs out, right? It touches the slide maybe a little bit. I could put it down here if I wanted to, just to get it out of the way. But at the end of the day, it's not doing much. It's just floating. So both thumbs are pointed forward and just kind of staying out of the way. And then the grip is really created by the friction in both my firing hand and my support hand. All right, once we have established our good grip on the firearm, the next thing we need to focus on is the trigger press or trigger pull or whatever the hell you want to call it. The reality is you're doing the same thing. You want to move the trigger from the front to the back to make the gun go bang. So we just want to do that as smoothly and as consistently as possible. With our firing grip established, working with a clear gun, keep our firearm rules in mind, right? Don't put your finger on the trigger, don't shoot at the stuff you don't want to shoot at. All the things, you know them, you're responsible firearms owners, so I'm not going to rehash those. When we are pulling the trigger of the gun, we want to pull it straight to the rear, right? So wherever your finger is comfortable for you, and this is where you're going to find a lot of people that say you have to do this, you have to do that, right? At the end of the day, all of our hands are different. They don't fit all the guns perfectly the same. So telling one person they need to put their, the trigger right here is going to be different if their hands are bigger or smaller. And so there's no end all be all to where your trigger needs to be, but it does need to be in a place where you can consistently pull it to the rear. So for me, I like to put the trigger of a Glock anyway, kind of right in front of my joint area, kind of right before the real nice meaty part of my finger starts. So that's me, that's Doug, right? You can do whatever feels comfortable for you, but just realize that you got to find that out for yourself. So I'm going to place my finger kind of right inside that meaty part, so that most of the meaty part is on the other side of the trigger. And when I am pulling the trigger, I am thinking of nothing but trying to press the trigger straight back into my palm. And for me, right, again, this works for me, is when I'm gripping the gun, I want to try and get the trigger to come right back into that webbing of my finger, right? I'm not trying to pull it off to the right or off to the left. I'm feeling it and I'm trying to press it straight back into that webbing part of my hand. So when I'm doing that, I want to pull it straight to the rear, right? Find the wall and pull through. Now, there's a lot of people that will say, let the shot surprise you. We've covered this in the past, but I'll quickly touch on it again. If you are learning how to shoot a gun and you're being very safe in a controlled environment and you are learning how to press the trigger back smoothly, I think that's an okay thought to have, right? You want to be able to pull the trigger slow and smooth until it goes and pulls, right? But after that, after you're done figuring out what your trigger feels like, I think it's really important that we have control of our trigger at all times, which means at no point should I ever be surprised when the shot breaks. So on a Glock, it's going to be hard to do because there are other guns that do this a lot better. But in each gun, you want to find the wall of the trigger. So when I can kind of take some of the slack out, that squishy part at the beginning, pull a little bit to where I get a little bit of tension or some resistance against my finger, knowing that if I pull any further than that, it's going to break. Now, this trigger is a Glock trigger, so if you notice, I can get to the wall, pull a little bit more, and it's going to keep going a little bit, and now it'll go, right? So that's part of learning your firearm. There's a lot of things you can do to mitigate that, one of which is just don't buy a Glock, but Glocks are great. They're fine. So when I'm adding that to my shooting, what a lot of people are going to do when they start live firing is flinching, and that's completely okay, right? That is your body's natural reaction to a miniature explosion going off in front of your face. So don't beat yourself up for flinching. It's not the end of the world, but we are going to touch on kind of how to work through that when we talk about sight picture. All right, so the last thing that we want to do to kind of tie both the first aspects together is create our sight picture. And what we're going to do is we're going to get our firing hand on the gun, get our support hand out, and we are going to extend our arms to where our arms are not locked out. We don't want to shoot like this because then it's going to look really bad. We'll show you a video of how that looks. But we want to extend our arms so we have a slight bend. We're going to lean forward a little bit into the gun. We don't want to do this because that also won't help us shoot very well. So lean a little bit into the gun, arms almost fully extended with a slight bend, a little bit of resistance, And then what we want to do here is establish what we call a natural point of aim, right? So here's how I like to do this and how I practice it at home. So I will establish my target if I'm dry firing or if I'm live firing at the range. And what I want to do is I want to close my eyes, right? Obviously do this in a safe environment. Make sure your friends aren't in front of your target or whatever. Be safe. Close my eyes. I'm going to present my gun and then wait until I feel like I'm nice and settled in a natural position and open my eyes, right? And what I want to try to do is have my dot or my iron sights as close to being aligned as possible when my eyes open up, because that natural position where my body kind of naturally wants to go, right? If I can see my red dot when I open my eyes, then I know I've established a natural point of aim. And so I'm not having to fight it. I'm not having to work really hard to get a sight picture. But if you're having a hard time finding the dot in your optic, if you're somewhat new to red dots, the other thing I would recommend as well is present your gun with the intent of aligning your iron sights on target, right? If that's something you're used to doing. And if you can do that, if you can present your firearm and have your iron sights aligned, I can guarantee your dot will be in the window, right? They are going to be pointed at the same thing if they're both sighted in correctly. So I should be able to go to aim my iron sights, right? And then if I can see my iron sights lined up, then I can see my dot as well. So we want to establish that natural point of aim so that our body's not having to fight what we're trying to do, right? I don't want my gun down here and then have to chase my head around to try and like dip down into the gun, right? I want to present my gun in a natural way so that if I can close my eyes and then open my eyes up, I can see my dot. See, that time I didn't do it because I suck. Okay, try it again. So eyes closed, present, and there it is, right? So that's what we're talking about when we talk about natural point of aim and using our sight picture with the red dot. All right, so if we have put all those things together, we went to the range, we practiced our grip, we practiced our trigger pull. If you are able to do all those things and hit what you're aiming at, then you are on the right path. You are able to align your sights, point the gun at the thing that you want to shoot, and pull the trigger without disturbing your sight picture. So good job. If you're having a hard time, if you are still missing a little bit, if you're missing low into the left as a right-handed shooter or low into the right as a left-handed shooter, then something else is happening, and that is most likely flinching. So to touch very briefly on this, what is happening is we are just anticipating the shot going off. And that is, again, a perfectly natural reaction to the miniature explosion that is happening in your hands right in front of your face. And there are some things we can do to help work on that, but I think the most important thing is shoot more, right? When you first started driving a car and you tried to hit the brakes, it was either no brake or all brake. There was no feathering of the brake where you could stop smoothly. And the only thing that got rid of that was more time behind the wheel, more time driving. And now, however old you are, you drive every day without even thinking about how much brake you need to apply because you're so used to it. So shooting is the same way, right? There is either no control of the gun, just kicks out of your hand, or there's too much where you just drive the gun down because you're trying to not let it recoil. So that being said, let the gun recoil. It needs to do that to function. When a standard striker fired polymer pistol like this fires, it needs the resistance of your hand and the cycling of the slide to be able to eject the round you just fired and load the next one into the chamber. So this is what the gun is designed to do. And at the end of the day, no matter how big or how strong you are, you cannot stop that from happening. And if you do, and you put your hand here, that's your fault. Let the gun recoil, I think, is the most important thing. Don't be afraid of the gun recoiling. As you shoot more, you will start to learn how to feather your muscles, in a sense, to apply pressure to the gun when you are firing to help mitigate it, but it does need to recoil. As far as flinching goes, when you are really, over anticipating the shot, you're seeing your rounds miss low, you're seeing your rounds miss to the right or to the left. There's one drill I really like to run people through when we're working through this. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna look around on the ground here for a piece of spent brass. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry fire, so empty chamber, but my trigger is forward, I'm ready to go. I'm going to place a piece of brass on my slide, and then I'm going to use my grip. I'm going to, son of a nutcracker, take two. I'm going to put my brass on my gun. This is a lot easier if you have a buddy at the range that does this for you, but I'm going to put it on the gun. I'm going to set my support hand, present my gun, and then obviously I'm looking at a piece of brass in my optic, but what I want to do is I want to be able to pull the trigger smoothly without that brass falling off, right? If you can't pull the trigger and keep the brass on the top of the slide, then I want you to do this religiously until you can, right? We want to train or rewire our brain that the trigger pull is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, and we control it. It does not control us. So try that again. So I'm gonna put my brass on the top. Woo! Get nice solid presentation. And then I'm going to smoothly pull the trigger without that brass moving. And if we can do that or start to do that when we're dry firing, then it's something that we can start crossing over into live fire. And most of the time when people try that, they practice that a few times and they get the feel of what that trigger feels like smooth. Then when they start live firing again, it might, still be a little rough, but they might still get the idea. And so what we're working for here is ultimately pull the trigger, let the gun recoil. That's okay. It's supposed to do that. Don't be afraid of it. If our grip is good, right, that we worked through at the beginning of the video, when we are live firing, our hands and our grip should help mitigate the recoil of the gun, right? It's not gonna do this thing like crazy, but it might do a little bit of this, and that's okay. Practicing a little bit of our dry fire technique with the little casing on the top can help work our trigger press smoothly, and then we can start applying that to our live fire so that we can not flinch, not try and over anticipate the gun firing, and just let it do its thing. All right, if you guys have made it to this part of the video, you have experienced a crash course in Pistol 101. I know this wasn't the most comprehensive overview of how to shoot a pistol, but it is just to get your wheels spinning, to get out to the range and have some things to work on and to practice. There are a ton of really phenomenal shooters on the internet, a ton that are far better than I am, that are more eloquent than I am. And so if you are like, man, I kind of didn't get everything I wanted to out of this video, go look for other videos. Don't just listen to us as the main source of your information. Go watch some pros, go watch some other of the incredible people out there and what they talk about and how to shoot pistols better. But hopefully today, if you are brand new to pistols, you are walking away with at least a foundation to build on for how to start shooting pistols and shooting pistols well. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and we will see you in the next one.